You're listening to SM Media. Hi, folks, and welcome to our latest episode of the SM Media East of Scotland football show. I'm Scotland Pike. It's always a pleasure to be your host, and we've got a thrilling weekend in the East of Scotland to look back. Maybe not as much league action as usual, but there's a lot to get into. We've got a very big game to talk about with our special guest tonight. It's a pleasure to welcome the co-manager of Leith Athletic, John Robertson. John, it's a pleasure to welcome you on. It's always good to get a guest on when their team have won because I think there's a wee bit more positivity in there. But thanks for joining me.
No, definitely. Thanks for getting me on as well, Scott. I really appreciate it. But Saturday was brilliant. Big win for us. We really needed to win that match in terms of how our season's going to go because the last couple of seasons we've kind of been a middle of the road team where we've looked like we could maybe start pushing on a bit, and then we've had a couple of poor results, and it's been kind of it's been stop start for us for the last couple of years. So we kind of said that to the players yesterday that it was really important that we had to on Saturday that we had to go and win that game, because if we won we went above Thornton. So it was obviously there was quite a lot at stake. But no, I really happy with Saturday, and as you say, it's better coming on with a win. When you messaged me last week, I was worried, thinking, oh no, I better not go on this podcast, get beat on Saturday.
I think it's important though to kind of talk about just how it was a difficult start. I don't think you'll mind me saying that. I think even obviously the first Thornton game was the opener. Like you lose 3-1 at home, then lose to Crossgates, and obviously we'll get into the kind of competitive nature of the division later on. But how big a turning point was that kind of Bo'ness Athletic win? Because obviously, like Bo'ness have been in such a great run for a long time. I'd imagine at the start of the season you'd have been looking at Bo'ness as maybe one of the teams to beat in the division. To get that kind of midweek win when you had a kind of difficult three games, how important was that result?
It was massive for our season. We started poorly. We
Mm-hmm.
did. Our results were poor, but also our
Right.
performances weren't great, and we weren't really great in pre-season either. To be honest, we were stop start again, and I think that was a turning point for our season. Now, the results after that weren't great either, but our performances were, and that was the positive to take for it. We probably haven't picked up the points that we would have liked to, based on our performances in games. And that Boness game, it was a big win, but we actually did play well in the game as well, and we deserved it. So no, it was massive to win that, and it did kickstart our season. But going into that game, there obviously was a lot of worry for us because you've no won your first three games, and then you're playing against arguably one of the favourites for the league
Yeah.
to go up. So there was a big worry for us as coaching staff, but the players basically turned it on that night, and they were brilliant, and they thoroughly deserved a win. So that started our season, and for there we've kind of kicked on a wee bit. So no, it's been good.
And obviously, like, I want to kind of mention just how kind of deep the league is. Like it was, I remember saying in the prediction show we did at the start of the season, it's such a hard league to call because you do have sides where, like, and I hate to kind of use budgets, but I think you know where I'm going here. There are sides who've got a lot of money who are bringing in a good level of player, and then there's kind of sides that are coming up that like Bo'ness, I would even include Thornton in it as well, who want to take the jump up to the Premier League and feel they probably can, and it's finding that kind of balance if you're a squad that you don't, if you maybe not necessarily get the budget, but you can kind of attract the kind of core of players. Like again, I'll touch on this with you in a moment, but I just feel as if you have done so well and over the spread a couple of seasons. I've always felt the club are really good in social media, and I've always felt the club do really well. I always see you do really well in kind of results. There's some results that really catch the eye. Is that fair?
No, I would say so, and like I think for myself and Hume, we
Mm-hmm.
we can get a team up for a big game, and it's obviously we've came through the club for the youth, played for the seniors for a while, so we're kind of embedded in Leith. Do you know, that's our club, and when we are up against these big teams, we always seem to turn it on, and I don't know what it is. I just think that as a club like Leith, we can get the best out of players in games where they're underdogs. It's us against the world kind of thing, and we do get the best out of players in that, and that's when for the last 3 years, we've been at our best when we played against the best teams, which is obviously frustrating for us as coaches as well, because then you're like, well, where is this against the so-called lesser teams? I didn't mean to, but you understand where I'm going with that. Because we could I think we went and bet Bo'ness, and then on the Saturday, I think we got beat off Inverkeithing.
Yeah, Inverkeithing, yeah.
So it's so frustrating, but if we like break that down again, that game against Inverkeithing, who were really good, really, really good, and we just couldn't score, and then they went and nicked it. So, I would say that our league position this season we're seventh, obviously, and it's a progression for last season. So we finished fourth for bottom the first season. Then the second season, last season, we finished eighth or ninth. And obviously we're seventh now, so we're always just looking to progress. But I would say this season our performances have been higher than the level in the last 2 seasons. But with just no kind of we're probably disappointed about where we are in the league at the moment because of the performances we've had. But you touch on it, and it's not something that I want to go into massive detail, because at the end of the day, budget doesn't come into it when you step over that white line. It's 11v11, but we haven't got a big budget, and we have to heavily rely on our contacts within the game, or players that have played for the club through the youth, or this season we've brought in a good few 20s boys that have been kind of at 20s teams, like your Haddingtons, your Edinburgh Uniteds, these kind of teams that are doing pretty well, and we're taking them in. And the problem with that is obviously there's always a risk, because 20s boys you have to be patient with them. They don't just come in and hit the ground running all the time. So that for us, season on season, it's hard. It's a big transition. We lost 9. We had to replace that with 9 players, and it's difficult. So there's going to be ups and downs. There's going to be slow starts, but we just need to stick to the process, and hopefully by the end of the season we're kicking on again. And who's to say that if we put a run together, because we've won 3 out of our last 4 games. So if we go and beat Heriot Watt on Saturday, which again will be a hard game, then who's to say that we can't then kick on? But on the flip side of that, again, we could go and get beat on Saturday, and then we could go and get beat the next game, and then you look at yourself and you're like, we're in a bit of trouble here. So as you say, it's a really, really tight, tough league, and you could be 2 or 3 games you could be going up the league, but 2 or 3 games you could be going down the league as well, and that's what makes it so good, the league.
Is there any standout sides in the league that you've obviously come across? Because obviously looking at the league, like we've mentioned, the likes of Camelin, Newton Grange, Bo'ness, Crossgates, obviously Thornton you've played twice. Who kind of stands out in the league so far?
Crossgates.
Right, okay.
Crossgates were really good. So the first time we played Crossgates, they were good. 2-1, we got beat, and we were really poor that day, really poor. But that's taken nothing away from Crossgates. But then we played them at home a couple of weeks ago, and it was the first time as a manager. So I've actually felt like that they were superior to us, and it was hard because we had just bet Nitton the week before. So you're looking at thinking home to Crossgates, let's go and kick on here. But we actually said to the boys on the Tuesday, let's just forget about it. Like, let's not get down a bit. Let's not analyse it too much. We were beat by a better team, and they had a lot of good players on the day. Their movement was good. Their midfield runners, it was just, they were at it. Their determination to go and win a tackle, to see out the win. I think at one point, it was like 5 minutes to go. It was 4-1. And we've countered, and they've got 6 or 7 bodies hammering it back, and that's a staple of a really good side. You know what I mean? That's a lot of the traits that you want in your own side. So the Crossgates were the side that I felt they're a good side, and I felt like they'll probably go up. But the league doesn't, it doesn't mean anything, because their next few games could be different. I don't know, but they were good.
That's kind of down to a competitive division. But what you obviously mentioned, kind of your co-manager Craig Hume, that's kind of something I wanted to touch on as well, because obviously he's still playing. I saw him playing at the weekend. Obviously, like how important is it? Like obviously, you're at the sidelines, he's on the park. How important is it to have that kind of balance? Because I see that a good example of that is maybe like Airdrie, for example. You saw Reece McCabe would be the manager, he would be on the touchline, and then you saw like, his assistant at the time was Callum Fordyce, he would be in the dugout, or they would switch it about. In terms of yourselves, do you just kind of strike that balance as well?
No, definitely. So when we took over, we were both playing.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm obviously still relatively young. I'm only 30, so
Mm-hmm.
it was a big decision for me. But I kind of knew before this even happened, belief that I wanted to go down the coaching route.
Mm-hmm.
So I was quite happy to kind of stop my career and just say, look, you continue to play. As well, to be honest with you, he is a really important part of our team still,
Mm-hmm.
and he's a really good player. He's a leader. He's everything you would want for your kind of centre half. He's probably not his pace these days because he's kicking on a wee bit, but he's still a massive part of our team. And when he's not playing, you feel it. So for him, even at training, when he's involved in the drills, the tempo's quicker, it's louder, it's there's a better kind of atmosphere. So he is a big part to play on the pitch, and we just kind of he it's good because if I'm on the side and he's playing,
Mm-hmm.
then he understands that I'm probably seeing the game from a different point of view because I'm watching it. Whereas he's playing, he's involved in the game. So he just says how he feels at half time, say for example, within the game, and I'll say kind of how I've seen it. But now we've got a really good relationship in terms of um, putting it together. Do you know, like there
Mm-hmm.
could be a lot of contradiction because there's two managers and stuff like that, but it doesn't happen. We're quite we talk to each other a lot, and that's communication is a big part of it because if we didn't talk and we're not aligned with our views and our style of play and how we see relationships with a player and how we approach certain things with a player, then there would become problems. But we rarely have that, and that's something that I would say was our strength that we're aligned and we communicate well, and it has to be like that.
Yeah, absolutely. And obviously you mentioned kind of like experience as well. And like I thought last season one of the kind of moves that caught my eye across the whole of Scottish football was when you brought Martin back from Trinent and loan.
Aye,
Having him like in terms of like you like I mean his goals were obviously unbelievable, but having him as a presence here as well, and obviously he is still young, but he's had a good career in the game so far. How key was bringing him back into that kind of setup as well?
I think he definitely helped. There was a week that we went up to St Andrews, and it was just by chance. We had Kane. Kane, he wasn't available. I think he
Hmm.
was on holiday. And Stephen Scott was the same,
Right.
who was also one of our attackers at the time. And I'm quite good mates with Martin. So I kind of just said to him, look, you want to help us out? And he came and we went up to St Andrews, and that was a turning point for last season.
Yeah.
We went and won 1-0. We actually done the double of them. So
Hmm.
they obviously went up. So that was massive for us. But we went up there 1-0, and it was one of the days in football that you'll never forget. Like it was a brilliant win. I remember the manager giving me a wee bit after and all that. But then we played them later on in the season in the cup, and it was all in good spirits. But it was just one of the wins, and him playing that game, it gave us a boost because, like you say, you've got Craig at the back, but to have someone at the top of the pitch as well, pressing every ball, firing up the team, it was big. And then for there on in, Kano will even say this. Bringing in Martin probably helped Kano at that point of the
Hmm.
stage, like season, because he wasn't probably hitting the heights that he has. And Kano ended up scoring like an unbelievable amount of goals in the second half of the season. He was scoring hat tricks. I think he went and scored 5 or 6 away at the Vale, and it was just, I think it boosted him on. So no, he brought a big boost around the place, and but we just didn't. He was meant to stay on for the season, but it just didn't work out. He wasn't able to train a lot, and that that was obviously a big factor in it. And he's involved with other things in terms of fitness events. He likes doing all that. So we just kind of parted ways. But last season, I massive bringing him in.
Hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And you mentioned obviously Kane and even like at the weekend, Josh Lamond as well. Like James
Aye.
Butler's a real good spread of goals in that squad. Like, how important is that in a league that's as competitive? And as you say, like when you don't have the budget to go and get the best type of players, when you've got guys like Kane and Josh who have been really instrumental this season, I mean, they can just be so key for you.
Definitely. the two of them were excellent on Saturday. Like in terms of playing as team players and getting us over the line. We normally play a 4-3-3, so we normally play like a 10 and a striker, and we kind of worked on it all last week to go a 4-4-2 because we knew kind of up front and there wasn't going to be much played through the midfield, so we just kind of took a player out of there and put a player up front, and we worked on a bit of they two and their movement and how they could complement each other in terms of one coming short, one going long, and really holding the ball up for us to get us forward as a team. And that I said that to the players after. We changed it to a 4-4-2 and we gambled and we went two up front. But it was down to the players. Like they made that happen, and having they two firing and scoring was a big factor in us obviously winning the game. And Kano obviously got man of the match. So Kano's goal to win it was brilliant. He lobbed it over the keeper. So no, it's definitely it's good to have two good attacking players, especially when you're away from home, because it's tough games, and you need them to kind of give you something at tough moments, and we always looked threatening like we were going to score. But Josh has obviously came in for Edinburgh United, so he was at the end last season, and he's been good since he's came in, really good. He's probably not scored the goals he would have wanted to, but he made up for that on Saturday. But there's definitely a good player there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And obviously, like, as well, one kind of thing I want to touch on is, and I've said this already in the show, like the club's kind of attention to social media, I think is really good. But obviously, like I've seen the chairman on like radio shows and things like that. Like I see a real progression at the club, and I see a real ambition to take advantage of what the kind of pyramid's offering. Is that something you kind of feel as well?
When me and Craig came in, we said to ourselves, it's not just about improving the players on the pitch. We need to try and get up to speed with social media. We need to try and get up to speed with VOs, analysis. It might sound like wee petty things, but it's stuff that makes the club better. It's the small things, make it bigger and better in the bigger picture. So that was something that we were quite big on, trying to get like the younger age groups into the games and ball boys and everything, because it's just all we just feel it all matters. And like you said, Jers going on the radio, these things, even myself coming onto this podcast, I was really keen to do it because I just feel like it'll help the club, and it gets the club out there a wee bit more. But it's funny because I've actually had 2 or 3 players come into us over the last couple of years, and they've said it's because of the social media.
Yeah.
So it just kind of like certified for me the fact that these kind of things, they do matter, and people are watching. Do you know what I mean? Because you might think in house, does it really matter? Even me daft things. I remember Kano saying to me last year, I think it was your team of the year. I don't know if it was, but I think Kano got in that. And he said to me, the only reason why I probably got in it this year is because of social media, because you're probably seeing every week he's scoring or he's getting man of the match, and like you said, these wee things help for the players.
Yeah,
well.
No, absolutely, and I think it is obviously something that I think a lot of clubs are beginning to take note of, and I think it's important as well. Like you do have the people who come to the games and things like that, but there's a lot of people who can't, and like this is the why this kind of podcast was started. There's a lot of people that aren't in the east of Scotland that want to know what's going on, and this is the kind of avenue they can go down. And obviously, social media is such an important avenue. But I think the east of Scotland's kind of engaged it very well. Let's move into the action over the weekend. Obviously, we'll get into the league in a moment, but obviously we had some South Challenge Cup action. Probably wasn't a great weekend for Leicester. Some results to take away. Like obviously, like I think probably one of the results of the weekend was Musselburgh's result. Obviously, they won 2-0 home to Kirkcaldy. Preston beating Girvan 3-2. You look at likes of Blackburn as well, beating high flying Knightswood in the west of Scotland. Like Preston went through St Andrews, beating Kilburney. There's a few results in there. Like in terms of kind of sides that have progressed, like who kind of stands out?
Well, obviously Preston. We played Preston the week before, so great result for them. But probably the game that stood out for me the most and it raised a few eyebrows was the Musselburgh game, because I don't know if you've seen it, but it was 0-0 at full time.
Yeah, I've seen that.
And it was against Kirkcaldy, obviously in our league. And I would have thought that they would have had that wrapped up and dusted by the half an hour mark. But fair play to Kirkcaldy if they've kept themselves in the game. I seen actually Kirkcaldy missed a penalty early doors. So I know Musselburgh obviously went on to win it and stuff and signing a good team, even when you're maybe not firing. I don't know. I don't know what the performance was like. I know quite a few of the boys at Musselburgh, so but it's that was probably the result that stood out to me for it to still be 0-0 at full time because I thought they would have kind of easily have won that game. No disrespect to Kirkcaldy, but aye, good result for Preston. I'm not a big. I'll be honest. I'm not a big in terms of like checking the results constantly and stuff
Yeah,
because I just sometimes a lot of it's maybe just because our results been poor, but I just kind of worry about ourselves and I just kind of kick on. I just say to the players like even the league table, I'm no one that's like right constantly looking at it because you can change places so quickly.
yeah,
It's just about the next game and then getting to the end of the season and seeing where you're at. But aye, no, the
yeah.
Musselburgh result was probably the one.
And probably, obviously, Hillabead as well, beating Linton 2-1. They obviously progressed as well. That's some
Yeah,
disappointing ones. Like Genefield, obviously flying in the Premier Division. I think they'll be disappointed going to Auchinleck and losing 3-0. I think
yeah.
Socky will be really, really disappointed. They lost 2-0 at home to Colwyn and Newton Grange as well. These are kind of big sides that are like they lost obviously at home to Drumchapel. Now, obviously, there's really good sides in the west of Scotland, but I think there'll be a few sides quite disappointed.
Oh, definitely. It's good to get a good cup run.
Mhm.
We had it last year, and
Yeah.
we got to the semi final of a cup, and it was yeah, it kept our season going.
Hmm.
It kept our season going, even when we were safe. We couldn't get promoted, but it kept players engaged for training, for games. Because at the end of the day, they are still like athletes that didn't get paid a lot of them, and you're trying to find motivations in other ways. So to have a cup run still going in the later stages of the season is massive. We've been knocked out of two cups already, which is it's no great because you then tend to find you've got 3 weeks and stuff, and I hate the 3 weeks.
It was penalties
Uh,
as well, wasn't it? I know the new mains one. That was penalties, wasn't it?
that was penalties.
Mm.
I was actually at a wedding that day, so I
Right.
wasn't at the game. Um, but
So
I heard that.
they'd have won if you were
Well, aye.
there.
But now we had a couple of missing, and we actually made a few changes into the squad. And the players that came in, they probably didn't um, do enough because we made 3 subs at half time. We were 2-0 down, and then we got back to 2-2. And I heard that we had a few chances to go and win the game, and we just never took them. But it's no great getting knocked out. We've come at the start of the season, we got knocked out for Whitehill,
Hmm.
1-0. That was one of the second game of the season, and to be honest, we probably deserved it. We were really poor up there, but aye, so the cup run's always good.
No, absolutely, and obviously, like in terms of the league, I want to touch on obviously the kind of Premier Division first, and like two games that we can talk about. We'll start with the result that sent Haddington fourth on the table. They won 4-2 at home to Tynecastle again. Haddington really exceeding my expectations anyway. Like I really
Definitely.
thought they would struggle. I think bringing in somebody like Grant Rose, obviously, who had a really good time last year at Bo'ness, having him sitting fourth in the league at the moment. Obviously, the goals they're scoring, they've really surprised me how well they've done, and fair play to them.
No, definitely. I mean, Haddington, Haddington are a side, like you say, that probably do exceed your expectations a bit. They are
Hmm.
quite a young side. Scott's quite loyal. He's quite loyal to the boys that he's kind of had these core boys, and we were for a couple of seasons we were kind of going for the league with them a wee bit, but then obviously they go up that season and they've kind of just progressed and progressed, and they always kind of played good football. They've got a good setup down at Haddington in terms of their pitch. Is it Millfield? I think it is their home pitch. So um, they're doing really well, and fair play to them because it's no easy season on season to keep maintaining, especially. They lost the lad Gab, is it Gabby
Yeah,
that
he went
went
to
to
Musselburgh.
Musselbrand? He was always when we played them, he was always one of the main players. Or any
Hmm.
time I'd watched them, so that's always the worry when you lose big players. Like, how do you replace them? But they've managed to do that, and they've managed to kick on a wee bit. So, aye, fair play to them.
Yeah, absolutely. Tynecastle, obviously, they've had a bit of a disappointing start, but the one thing that kind of jumps out is they've got a lot of goals. Like they drew three each with Socky last week, and they've scored two away in defeat as well. The main thing they'll probably be looking at is just try to tidy up at the back.
a bit shaping and a bit defensive work at training for the next few weeks. That's what I think they maybe need. But it's obviously a positive for scoring goals, so
Hmm.
that's something you've kind of got to use as to your advantage. But um, nah, they'll just be, if their manager, they'll just be looking at it saying we need to be a bit harder to beat here. But as I said, I'm not sure kind of the types of goals that they're conceding, or if it's what at what times of games, because it can be that players switch off at certain times of games, or the types of goals. It could be corners. So I'm sure their manager will get that sorted pretty quick, and they'll stop conceding as many goals.
Yeah, absolutely. Other impressive result in that division at the weekend, obviously Glenrothes winning 3-1 away at Hutchison Vale.
Aye.
Bridgeford, Mackenzie and Cargill with the goals for Glenrothes. I thought Glenrothes were another team that would maybe struggle, but again they've got goals in their team, and we'll get to Hutchison Vale in a second. But I mean they'll be happy with where they're at, sitting in ninth with 14 points, 11 games played so far. They've lost a lot of goals, but they've got like Cargill and Bridgeford, for example. I mean, they're regular scorers for them. And to have players like that, like you know yourself, it's essential when you get players like that can score when they're consistent. It's massive.
No, definitely. Having a good striker or having a player that can score you goals isn't easy to come by. It's not easy to come by. Um, it's definitely something that we fully understand. Like, we've got, obviously Kano's been top goal scorer of EC Scotland a few times, and it's
Mhm.
having that player. If he was to then say, right, I'm moving on, then how do you replace that? He's 30, 40 goals a season, and he's probably, the boy Cargill at Glenrothes is probably in the same kind of bracket. Um, but no, that's a great result for them. What I always tend to find with the teams about Fife and Perth and all that is they all seem to kind of interchange. So you never know who's really going to be good and who's not, in terms of, I mean, interchange in terms of players, and
Mhm.
sometimes, like, so you never really know who's going to be good until the season kicks off. That's how I've always felt with these teams. They jump about a wee bit, but good start for them.
Yeah, absolutely. Hutchison Vale, it's been a tough start. I thought last season Ryan Harden did one of the jobs of the season, what he did with Hutchison Vale last season, and obviously with him leaving, I think it was going to be difficult to follow up on that. I think like Ryan was obviously he brought such a coolness to that squad. And again, I think they've lost a few players as well. I think the boy Viola's went to Trinent. They've
Yeah,
just had a tough start, and it's really difficult to assess. I don't know much about where they're at just now, but you look at the table from where they were last season, it's not looking good.
it's no for them, but what I would say is it's no out of the reach to go and win a couple of games and
Mhm.
jump up. It's like what it's a bit similar to our league. It's it just takes that one result. And we obviously had we Cammy Stewart, who was at us last year. He went to Lothian,
Right.
who's a good player. And it's difficult, especially when you lose your manager so early on in the season. Obviously, a new manager's went in, but it's difficult to then go and implement how you want to play and how to change everything. When you go in mid-season, I think you just really need to keep things a lot of the same, but obviously try and tweak a couple of things to improve on what's kind of been going wrong. But it's difficult going in mid-season. I didn't envy him. Like, it's a hard gig going in mid-season, and I hopefully he can pick it up.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll get into the game, probably the game of the weekend in Scotland, actually. There's a lot to get into with this game. Thornton 3, Leith Athletic 4.
Aye.
Like, Hughes went 1-0 up,
Yep.
2-1 up at half time.
Yep.
Hughes then go 3-2 ahead.
Yep.
Scotland equalise late, and then it's a late winner from Kano to get the 3 points.
Aye.
It sounds chaotic. Talk us through what happened.
Aye, so you can probably see the big smile on my face, but it was a brilliant game to be involved in. It was really, really good. See, after it was one of the games where you're like, that was really good today. It was just a battle. It had everything. So there was we scored for like a wee corner routine we done. Then they got a penalty, and then we scored a couple of really good like goals, like cutting through them. They then there was a bit between the two teams, and it was they equalised, and their manager was giving me a wee bit, and it was just, and then I was just obviously when they equalised, I was just thinking, here we go again. Do you know, like, because to be fair, in the game, I would say that we deserved to win it. We were pretty good and we looked dangerous every time we went forward. So their penalty as well. It was one of the ones. It was. I didn't want to say too much because the ref might see this, but I just felt it was really, really soft on the day. And there was a decision beforehand that he didn't give. That was probably something he should have probably gave in the game, and I think he just tried to even it up in that sense. So he gave the penalty, and then at half time, we found ourselves 2-1 down. But kind of just say to the players, like, we probably didn't deserve to be 2-1 down here, lads. Just relax and just keep playing how you are playing, and it'll come. And then I think a couple of players were just, you could just see it in the dressing room. They looked like they believed. They looked like they believed they could get back in the game. And we got a goal early. Josh Lamont, was it Josh?
Yeah,
Was,
Josh. Yeah, Josh
no,
scored
sorry, it
two,
was
didn't he?
Kano.
Kane.
Kano scored early doors. It was a really nice finish. And then Josh got the one to make it 3-2.
Right.
Just no long after. And then they obviously equalised. And it looked like the last couple of minutes like they were going to score again. And I was thinking, oh no, here. And Smudger, he's done this a few times, so this is our keeper. They've had a free kick or a corner, and he's just picked it up. Kano's just spun right on the counter, long ball, right over the defender's head, 1-on-1 with the keeper, and he's lobbed it over the keeper, and it's bounced on the line and went right in the top bin. It came down with snow on it, but it was a brilliant win. It was a brilliant win, and so happy because, as I said, we really needed that to get us up the table, and kind of put a wee statement in terms of how we want our season to go.
And obviously, like in terms of Thornton as well, like obviously, like we spoke about Kano and his importance to your squad. Like Gary Thompson scoring a hat trick as well for Thornton. You see, like just as well, like Thornton obviously coming up last season. I think a lot of Thornton fans and a lot of Thornton the management team will think Gary was a large part of that. Like it shows you how key those players are.
Aye, we were actually speaking to a few of their boys before the game, and I think over they won last week against Inversouth, but before that they had like a month period where they weren't picking up points.
Mm-hmm.
Their big centre half was it, and Gary was it. So it just goes to show you, players do make teams. There's no two ways about it. And having him out, obviously he scored a hat trick on Saturday, but I think even the first game of the season he scored. They won 3-1 and he scored two against us, or it was he definitely scored anyway. So we've seen already this season how much a good player he is, and you can just even tell in the game his wee touches and how he controlled the ball and how he moved the ball and the way he got about the park. So he's a really good player.
Yeah, absolutely, and obviously massive win for Leith. Obviously takes you into seventh. Like 11 games so far. Like probably I think looking at the kind of league, I think you've played the most games. So you've got that kind of wee mark, and I think that's quite important as well. Like when it gets to the kind of stage which we're heading into, you know what's going to happen. Games will get called off. How important is it to have that kind of early start when you've got the kind of early points? Like, does that kind of set a marker already?
Definitely. The last two seasons, because we play at Middlebank on an Astro, we've been able to fulfil our fixtures.
Mm-hmm.
So I think I'll use Lochore. They kind of dropped a lot of points, or they had a lot of games to play in a short space of time last season because their pitch kept getting called off in the December, January. So for them, for us, it's good because we can just keep our Saturday to Saturday to Saturday rather than try to cram all these games in, because that's how injuries happen. It's hard mentally as well. Like, people don't understand, these aren't the professional athletes. These boys are going to work all day and then they're having to try and play games on a Tuesday night or Thursday night. It's just hard. Like, it is hard to get them up for the midweek games. And I think that having the points on the board and the games on the board that earlier on in the season is really important. No having the games called off, so quite thankful to have Meadowbank for that reason.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I thought a big statement result at the weekend was the other game in the first division, Camelin 5, Heriot Watt 0. Well, obviously, you'll have I imagine you have an eye on Heriot Watt towards your game on Saturday, which we'll get into, but Camelin so far, 8 wins from 10 games, plus 31 goal difference. They just look a good side, don't they?
Aye, definitely. Do you want to know something? I would be surprised if they weren't up there and challenging this season, because some of the players they brought in, they were statement signings, and they obviously went for it last season and fell short. But this season, They've obviously brought in even stronger players, and you're looking at that saying, well, they need to kick on now, eh? Like, it's so important for them to kick on. So, nah, I just, the manner they're doing it in, they're beating Edinburgh, they're beating Heriot Watt 5-0 and stuff, and Heriot Watt are they mugs. So,
No.
um, it was a really good result for them. But we've got Heriot Watt next, and then I think Camelin after that. So,
Yes, it is obviously tough.
Camelin.
Harry Watt, obviously, as well. Like one of those kind of difficult days, but you look at like what they've done today. For example, Falkirk take the boy Stewart. Like we've seen this in the past with Harry Watt. Their way of building players, the way of kind of bringing through players, it's absolutely tremendous. And again, another boy that deserves his move. And fair play to Banji for what he's done there.
I would say he's probably one of the best managers in the league. I would say so because, and I always said this I said this to Hume last year. Like, I didn't mind. It sounds bad to say, but no, I didn't mind getting beat off them. But sometimes, like when we played them last year, I always felt like they were one of the best teams. Like
Mm-hmm.
they always moved it a bit well. They were organised. Um, I don't know if they've always got the quality players because, and that's no disrespect to them. They have got quality players, but sometimes you play them and they've got boys away or they've got boys. So it's you never know which team you're getting with them. But we had a player, whereas the young lad Rui, who was at Spartans 20s, and he was training with us and he was training with Heriot Watt. And I actually said to him at the time, I says, if he goes and picks Heriot Watt, I wouldn't say, oh, he's picked the wrong option because the setup they've got there, facilities wise, coaching wise, it's bang on. And like I said, I don't think for 1 minute that was a bad move for him. I would have liked for him to come to us because he was a really good player. But no, I really like Heriot Watt and they seem to be a good side.
And well, obviously, we did mention Camelin in terms of some of the players they brought in. Mark McKenzie, obviously, who I know pretty well. And as soon as he went to Camelin, I was like, right, that's a kind of big signing. Xander Miller as well, obviously, didn't score at the weekend, but we know what he's done at kind of higher levels.
Yeah.
They've got just such a good spread. But one thing that jumps as well, I think they've got a really experienced coach. And I think they needed that after a bit of kind of turmoil over the past kind of year or so to get Alan in. And I think like to bring in some experience, I think they've made the right call.
Aye, definitely. Sometimes you just need someone with a bit know how to get you over the line, and
Mm-hmm.
that's it's experience is invaluable. You need experience. You need for especially for tough moments, because it's no always easy to deal with a 20 odd players, and I think they've got quite a strong like upper level in terms of like committee and all that as well. So you need probably a strong character to go in there and assert yourself and kick them on. So enough you put them.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll get into the second division. Obviously, there's only two unbeaten teams in the whole east of Scotland. I'm pretty sure, and obviously Genefield are one of those in the Premier Division, but Armadale are the other side in the second division, and they had to make hard work of it. But again, it's they'll probably look back at the season. I know they're already got a kind of 9 point lead at the top, and they're looking pretty good, but they had to work for it. 1-0 away to Kennaway, Star Hearts, Bailey with the goals down to 10 men. I think their goalkeeper had one of the games of the season, from what I heard. Like if Armadale are to go up, which is looking a pretty good bet, they'll probably look at this game thinking that's where we did it.
Aye, no, definitely. They're looking like the team that's going to go up now. They're looking like the ones that are pulling away. So anything other than promotion now would probably be a disaster. I know they'll probably not want to admit that at this moment in time because the season's early, but they'll be looking at that thinking we need to go up here. They're a big enough club. They should be up there. They are a big club and they've always kind of been about the. We've played them a few times in the last couple of seasons. To be fair, good cup games, really good cup games. They've won one, we've won a couple. So they're a good side, a good big club, and they'll be welcomed into our league. They'll deserve their place.
Yeah, absolutely. Another side who have obviously come up last season that have started really well and again kind of show their class this Saturday was West Calder. They won 4-1 at home to Burnt Island, a double from McAllister, goals from Jackson and Hay. West Calder as well, we know the experience they've got, and they're just another side who look as if they could make that other jump.
Aye, they're doing well also. They're doing really well also, and again another side that probably could take the jump up in terms of the club itself. Because the leagues are still even themselves out. Like that's they're getting closer to where they should be. They're definitely getting closer, but um, There'll be a few ups and downs in terms of clubs and movements of it, but they're definitely getting closer to how they should be in West Calder on our side that could be a first division team.
Yeah, absolutely not. But impressed with them. Burnt Island had a good start as well. Obviously, 14 points for 9 games. That was only their third defeat of the season. They're still right in amongst it. And you look at that kind of table as well. You look at between third and 12th, there's only 4 points of difference. So
Oh,
that shows your competitiveness.
definitely, and it's kind of the same in our league as well. There
Mhm.
was at one point, I think our couple of wins took us away for a couple of teams, but at one point there was like 7 or 8 teams with about 3 points between us. So it's good, but it's no good when you're in it. You're wanting out of it because you take the pressure off a wee bit. But no, it's good for the competitiveness, definitely.
Absolutely. Let's look at the other win in that division was Oakley United winning 2-1 at home to Stirling Uni Reserves. Oakley obviously were a tough couple of years, and we've seen that obviously the back-to-back relegations. Just to have like 3 wins for 9 games as well, what a confidence boost that'll be. Like obviously, like I don't think they're going to be challenging for promotion, but just to have positivity will be such a boost for them.
No, defo. Positivity in your group is massive, and confidence is massive, and that's a big part of sport. You might not be have the best players, but if you're positive and you're confident, you can go and beat anyone. And they'll be feeling that now.
Yeah, absolutely. The other game in that division, Coldstream, obviously, they remain 5 games unbeaten in the league. They drew 2-2 away at East Houses. Obviously, East Houses move into a fifth place. East Houses, good start, 15 points for 10 games. And Coldstream, after quite a dismal start, actually 14 points for 10 games. So, probably a fair result when you look at the table.
Aye. The two teams, if they're pretty similar to each other, then in terms of league position, then there'll be no much between them. But East Lucius have made a couple of good signings in terms of players, and we played them in pre-season. The boy up front, Sean Hull, was really good against us. So, they'll hope to get themselves in a bit there.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll just get into the third division. Obviously, some interesting results. Lochgelly, obviously 3-2 away win at Ormiston, 9 points clear at the top of the table. Like Lochgelly, obviously we had Paul on a few weeks ago. They've just started so well, and like when you've got Kieran Boundy scoring a double, they've got the goals there as well. They just look really good so far.
Yeah, no, definitely that Div 3. The teams will be wanting out that, and the teams like Lochgelly and that again. They'll probably be feeling like we're not a Division 3 team, so we want to try and get up the table here,
Absolutely.
up the leagues.
Fauldhouse, obviously, they moved into second, overtaking Howick, who they beat 5-1 at the weekend. McDonald with a double plus goals from Howe, Gould, and Farquhar. Fauldhouse have went under the radar because I don't think a lot of people thought like they're very hard to predict because like they do have a lot of youth players, they do have a lot of kind of experience, but like overtaking aside by beating them 5-1, can't ask for better than that.
Aye, it's so important, like especially when you've got teams about you to go and win. If you're playing a team that's a couple of positions close to you, or a chance to get near to a team like we had it on Saturday, whereas if we won on Saturday, Heriot Watt got beat, which they did, and we did,
Mhm.
and then we bet Heriot Watt, we could go level on points with them. We were 6 points behind them before Saturday. Obviously, we're free now, and we've got
Yeah.
them on Saturday.
Mhm.
So it's really really important to beat the teams about you.
Yeah, absolutely. Edinburgh Community moved off bottom of the table by beating Livingston United 5-0 at home, who they then put at the bottom of the table with that victory, obviously. And Newborough, Mitchell Sharp with a double as they won 2-0 away at Edinburgh United. I mean, Lochgelly looked pretty good so far, but there's only 6 points between second and 11th in that table. And for the likes of like Edinburgh and Newborough, to get those results, like massive results at the weekend.
I thought that Edinburgh's result was one that stood out as well, 5-0. I mean, they've not had it easy the last few seasons. To go and win that game 5-0 was probably a bit of a statement for them and a big result for them, a big important result, eh?
Yeah, absolutely. And obviously that kind of makes a fascinating weekend of action. But we do have some action midweek. We've got 4 Premier Division games on Wednesday, and then we've got a First Division game on Thursday. Let's look at the Premier Division games. Obviously, some interesting clashes in here. Hillabead versus Lancarty. Like Hillabead obviously been in a tremendous run so far. Like you'd fancy Hillabead there, wouldn't you? Lancarty have struggled a wee bit, and Hillabead looked pretty good. Obviously, Robbie's come in and taken them further up, I would say.
Aye. Hull and Beef have always been kind of a big side, so to see them not do as well as they probably would have liked over the last couple of seasons, because they probably should be up there a wee bit. But no, aye, good start.
Yeah, absolutely. We've also got Musselburgh against Whitburn. I think if you're a neutral, it's probably where you would go.
The game you'll go to, Whitburn have started. Did you say Musselburgh Whitburn?
Musselburgh Whitburn, yeah.
Whitburn have started pretty decent. They were obviously in our league last year, and again they've got the capabilities to shoot up the leagues, you think, as well. So, and that'll be a good game. Musselburgh have obviously started really well, and Musselburgh will be looking at this year thinking we need to go up here, because obviously they were one of the main hitters last season, and they're probably one of the main hitters this season. So they'll be dying to get up and
Yeah,
get into that Lowland League.
absolutely. Socky Pennycook, obviously. Socky will be looking to bounce back after this disappointing cup result. Pennycook have surprised a lot. I know they've obviously the managers left and things like that, but again, that's another interesting game, and both sides will be looking for a big win at midweek.
I definitely. It's I've not actually seen much of the Premier Division in terms of places, but obviously I know Socky probably are they were one of the better teams last year in terms of the league. I think are they up there this year again?
They're sitting in fourth, I think, or fourth or
Yeah.
fifth.
So they'll be looking at wanting to try and to win and then keep the pressure on Musselburgh. But aye, Pennycook, anyone can beat anyone, so they'll be fancying themselves as well.
Absolutely. And Genefield travel to St Andrews as well. Genefield will just be looking for to keep that unbeaten run going and
Aye,
bouncing back after losing to Auchinleck, I would say.
aye, definitely, and again keeping the pressure. They're top, you know,
Yeah.
Genefield.
So
Aye, so
a
they'll
point
be.
clear, I think.
They'll just be looking to keep winning the next game, the next game, the next game. So they'll be dying for their next game. That's how it gets.
Yeah, absolutely. And
But
on Thursday night, we've got Camelin against Arniston Rangers. Obviously, Camelin, pretty good run. Arniston, I think, have surprised a few people how well they've started. Camelin, obviously, you would probably look at and think they probably should win, but Arniston, I wouldn't put it like they're always capable. Phil was always really well coached.
no, I think I think Arneston are a bit similar to ourselves, in
Mm-hmm.
terms of they're they've no got that massive budget to go and spend on players, and they have to kind of you have to be really they have to win in other ways. So they're quite a hard team to beat. And fair play to them, he's done a really good job with them. So, nah, they're capable of beating anyone in the day, and especially getting a big result. So, um, they could definitely get the win.
Yeah, absolutely. And before we let you go, John, obviously, final kind of thing we want to touch on, obviously, Heriot Watt at home on Saturday. We've obviously praised Banji quite well and praised the
Yeah.
setup, but how important is it to keep that run going? Obviously, massive away win. How important is it to follow up with a home win?
No, defo. I really, if we win on Saturday, that's 4 out of our last 5 games we've won in the league.
Mhm.
So that's kind of that's kind of top three form. Do you know what I mean? So for us to go and beat them on Saturday, it's definitely it's definitely within our reach, and it's definitely something that we need to believe in. And I think the boys will be up for it. Unfortunately, we've got a few missing, which is never good when you've just won 2 games. You want to keep the same squad, so we'll need to try and get the boys that come in. Will need to make an impact straight away, and they'll need to take their chance. But that's down to them, and that's the nature of football. If players are out, you can then go and get into the side by players either suspensions or injuries. So that's down to the players. It's a squad game, and we need to use a full squad. But nah, I'm not saying I'm really confident we go win these games, because anything can happen. But after the results we've had recently, we've got to be kind of quietly confident going into it and have that wee bit about us, that we swagger, that they're coming to Meadowbank. Let's go and take it to them and show them who the best team is on the day. Hopefully.
No, absolutely. John, I cannot thank you enough for joining me in this week's pod, mate. It's been an absolute pleasure to get you on and talk to you about Leith, and obviously we wish you all the best for the season going forward, mate. Can't thank you enough.
Scott, thanks for having me on, and I'll hopefully see you about me. All right.
Brilliant.
Cheers,
Thank you
mate.
very much to everyone that's tuned in. We will be back next week for another episode of the East of Scotland show. And join us as always on social media. We'll see you all soon. Thank you.